Hey, my friends, it's your girl Tisha, team leader, realtor, listing specialist from the Ownatlanta group. Popping by today, I had a closing last week and it didn't go according to plan. In fact, we were 8 days late closing on that property. Now, fortunately, we had a good plan and we had some cushion in our marketing strategy for when the seller needed to be out of the house. And it actually worked out to her benefit, but she was pretty stressed out along the way, even though she knew that closing being delayed was a possibility. So I wanted to pop on here and talk to you a little bit about what are some of the reasons, top 10 reasons really, of why a closing is delayed. Now I'm gonna give you these 10, but they won't be in any particular order. Just wanted to give you the information. The first is unrealistic contract dates. I'm not saying any blame here, but there is a coordination that has to happen between the buyer, the buyer's agent, and the buyer's lender, right? And through that, there's some things that are outside of all three of those parties' control, right? But oftentimes, especially in the last year, buyers were being very aggressive in their contract dates because they wanted to get the closing. They wanted to get the deal in multiple offer situations. That can cause a problem sometimes because you may be delayed on some other things that you don't have any control over, like an appraisal or an inspection. That goes to number 2, real estate appraisal issues. The real estate appraisal is very important if a buyer has financing. And oftentimes those appraisers have a particular timeline that they have to be on to have the appraisal back to the lender. Oftentimes, the buyer's agent and lender are not on the same page about when that can be. So that's an appraisal issue that is outside of both the buyer and the seller's control of when that's going to happen. Title-related issues. Did you know that sometimes when the closing attorney is actually reviewing the title to verify that that title can be transferred to the new buyer, there's some things that maybe the seller wasn't aware of. Perhaps someone passed away. Perhaps there was a tax lien that didn't get paid from years before. And sometimes you don't know about that until we're getting close to closing, but that will delay your closing. Another is the instrument or survey related issues. So a survey is about what the property boundary lines are. And sometimes there is a discrepancy between what the seller believes they own and what they actually own. And it may take some extra time to get that worked out. Disparity in closing figures. So there are times when a seller believes that they're going to net a certain amount when the property is closed, but maybe they forgot they had a second mortgage. Maybe they forgot that the taxes were a little bit less than they thought. And you'll get to a situation, and you don't often know it until closing, that there was some finance related issue that maybe the seller wasn't aware of or the seller did not disclose that will have an impact on your closing date. When a lender requires additional documents, sometimes just before closing, there's something that pops up on the buyer's credit or in the buyer's documentation that the lender was not aware of prior to. And at the very end, the buyer's got to pull those documents. And if the lender doesn't have them, that loan's not going to close. And that's something that the buyer and the buyer's agent are not aware of and they have absolutely no control over. Another is when the agreed upon repairs are not completed. Sometimes the sellers will agree to make a repair and maybe there's a delay in a vendor getting over. Perhaps it's a deck, and I know during COVID there was like a shortage of wood or there was a backlog of getting things, right? When those repairs are not made, that can delay closing. A final walkthrough. So if the buyers don't have access to the property for whatever reason just before closing, it can delay closing because the buyer has a right to be able to walk through that property before they close. There's some professionals involved in the transaction that may drag their feet. They may not get things over in a timely fashion to get through closing. I say this to my sellers and my buyers, and I'd say this to set an expectation, and that is the moon and the stars basically have to align for a real estate closing to get to the table on time. And yet it happens every day. But there are so many moving parts. There are so many people that have to do their job by the deadline that there's a lot that can go wrong. And sometimes if one professional or one document or one missed deadline can delay the whole process. And finally, sometimes at the very last minute, the buyer's mortgage rejected. Something's happened. Something's changed with their credit. Something's changed with their job. Sometimes they buy something. Sometimes something pops up on the credit that was not there during the initial pre-approval process. And honey, that'll shut the whole thing down. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of reasons why closings are delayed, but here's some of the most common ones, right? As your real estate agent, most people don't know that behind the scenes, we're anticipating, we're watching, we're seeing these deadlines, and we're getting them taken care of prior to. So oftentimes you have no clue that your agent is actually in the back making sure people are doing what they need to be doing. Your agent generally is your quarterback, making sure that everybody is running the play as they should. So oftentimes when you are sitting at a closing on time, you have no idea how many backflips and twists and turns and how many conversations happen behind the scenes so that you wouldn't worry. You're packing, you're getting yourself together, you're getting your finances together, but there's a lot happening going on. Again, this list is not exhaustive, but this is 10 reasons why a closing may be delayed. Like, share, and comment, and weigh in. If you have additional questions about what I provide, or if you needed additional clarification, our information is here for you. Reach out. I'll be more than happy to answer all of those questions for you. Have a great day, my friends.